This is Ballet Universe with me, Elitsa Zafirova, and I have the pleasure to reshape your mind with the ballet experience of today's guest, India Rose, who is a professional ballet dancer with international experience across the US and Europe, currently training, performing, teaching, and creating in Paris, France, and who happens to be one of the very few floor bar treasure teachers who fosters the original method of Boris Kniaseff. India Rose, my dearest friend, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
For a talk here with me and the platform of Ballet Universe, and for willing to share your experience, professional and personal, here with the audience. As we know each other already for quite a long time, for me, it will be even more interesting to hear in details everything for you that you will to share. And most of all, when the very first question for a dancer, when did you start dancing? This is question that I cannot skip, and I would like to know because I actually don't have this in my records. So please share.
I started dancing when I was 3 initially, but a brief baby ballet class, and I didn't like it because it wasn't the real ballet. That's what I told my parents. So I stopped and I started training at 10. And when I started at 10, it was no joke. It was the real training because I kept asking for the real ballet.
For 7 years.
Well, I wanted to, every time my parents took me to some, amateur children's class, I said, this isn't the real ballet. I don't know where I got that idea of what was real and what wasn't, but in my head, it wasn't the real training. So.
Yeah, well, I guess you had your sixth sense running and then it told you, but where did you start originally?
But I started in Los Angeles.
Oh, nice.
And I started, actually my first teacher when I was like 8, or not 10, but like 9, was Yulia Doneva, and she was Bulgarian.
No way.
Bulgaria, Yulia Doneva. And that was funny. And after that, my mom took me to a man named Yuri Grigoriev. And he was from Moscow, and I started my training seriously then. And he didn't speak any English, but he was a very popular teacher in Los Angeles for young.
This is very interesting. How did you understand all the details that he was trying to communicate just with the dance body language, or did you have some kind of maybe already Russian knowledge more or less?
I definitely learned to count till 8 in Russian for sure. That for sure, I know. But I guess, we're children, so children are very adaptable, right? You can start speaking to a child around that age 10 in a foreign language and they'll adapt, but
they're quite open. Yeah, they're quite open to communication. Also curious. That's why they kind of take it easily than adults, which are just like popping their eyes out and like, what is happening? What is this person saying?
He was very popular, very respected teacher in LA, and so everybody was going to him despite the language barrier. And I even did a couple private lessons with him. Can you imagine? Not just me and him, but me and like semi-private, me and another girl, and it was all in Russian. Didn't become bilingual, and then I also trained with a teacher, Kniaseff, also from Moscow, and she spoke English. And I think that the explanations in English were very helpful at this point.
For
and
sure.
I saw the difference actually in looking at some of my ballet videos when I was before I met Alla and after. It was clear that the language barrier, it was helpful for me to have a teacher.
Yes, I can believe this made a huge difference. But what I want to underline is that you technically started your ballet education, or you laid the basics together with teachers mostly from the Eastern countries, so Bulgaria, Russia.
100%, 100%. Yeah.
And then later on, when we met with you in Kirov Academy in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
you were also having a lot of Russian
Yeah.
methodology influence because of all the
Yeah.
teachers there. So
Yeah.
even though you started with Russian basics and now you ended up in France, in Paris, in
Yeah.
this beautiful city, you still continued your education with the basics from the Russian teachers or the Russian methodology of teaching ballet in Kirov
Well,
and later on.
well, yes, because then when I went to New York, I trained with Gelsey Kirkland.
Yeah.
And you would think she's, a Balanchine ballerina and stuff, but she wanted, because she had school and then a company, and she wanted us, we all had Russian teachers there. Actually, Madame Fomenich from Kirov came there to be ballet mistress, so that was funny.
And she was
So
your teacher in Kirov beforehand.
She was my
already.
teacher in Kirov, and then
Yeah.
she came as like a ballet mistress in Gelsey's.
And this is what I call destiny.
Yeah. And I'm really happy I had met her again in Gelsey's. She's just a really good teacher. So it was good to have her at a different stage in my life.
So
as a
tell
young
me
professional.
how did you find your way to France from the US? You're a child of overseas country. You're not really originally from France. You came from the US, a long way, teaching, studying, dancing. And tell me, how did you get to this beautiful city of love and dance?
I love and dance. Yeah. By accident. No. It was not planned. It was also, funnily enough, it was never a city that I dreamed about moving to. Same with New York City, actually. For whatever reason, my dream was always to move to London. Never happened. My dream was London, but I ended up in New York, also relatively last minute. And in Paris, I was supposed to visit a friend or an acquaintance that I met in New York offered for me to visit her. I was 22. I think I had finished like my second or third season in Gelsey's professional company. And I always told myself at 22, I'm going to kind of spread out my wings and try something different. And I went to Paris. And the evening of my flight, so 30 minutes before my taxi was going to pick me up to take me to the JFK airport, it was a very, very rainy day in June. And it was a duplex. So I was upstairs in the bathroom collecting my things, my final things to go. And I hear this sound like the shower's on. And I tell myself, oh, who's in the shower? Because I had flatmates. And then I realized I'm in the bathroom, so nobody's in the shower. So where is that sound coming from of the running water? And I went downstairs and I found that the water, the first floor was flooded up to the knees.
Up to the knees?
And, yeah. Oh thank goodness I put my laptop, on a table or something. And my suitcase was floating in the water. Oh, no. Good thing it was waterproof. I think I still have that suitcase actually. No, I threw it out finally. And so I didn't really have time to think. And I just took my things and I went to the airport. I did miss my flight, but they gave me another flight the next day. Oh, wait, no, I missed it.
Oh, okay.
Because it was, I've never seen that much rain before in my life, because even while we were driving to the airport, you could feel the water under the car, under the engine. It was it was actually, there was no way I was going to make it on time. And so I came back, they gave me a flight for the next day, which was quite nice. And I had to deal with the damages of the apartment while I was in Paris.
You had a private swimming pool in your apartment, technically.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. And the apartment was, I mean, it was destroyed. So I had
Wow.
no place to live. And, you know, New York is very expensive. I was not so keen on staying there because I said, okay, at 22, I'm going to leave. However this works. And really, you know, New York is a very tough place if you're not swimming also in money.
Wow.
So the offer that my landlord gave me was he had another apartment, but it was further out in Brooklyn. And, you know, I wasn't so sure about coming back to the company, Gelsey's. So it just didn't seem like a good offer. And in Paris, I had met this teacher, and it was just a whole different door of, you know, as you know, dancing in Europe. And I was curious about that. So I asked my landlord for a settlement instead of a new apartment. And I took this several months back in rent, and I made my start here. Very smooth transition.
Very smooth transition.
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy back then, but it was, if you look at it from a different perspective, it was pretty obvious that I got flushed out of New York.
Absolutely. You flew over this private pool that was created in your apartment for a reason. Just before we fly together in the store,
30 minutes
Paris,
before, 30 minutes before, 30
minutes
before.
before. This is not
Isn't that crazy?
believable. This is crazy. But just tell me, because I'm curious, how did you like or dislike New York in comparison to the other side of the States? I mean, okay, you spent some time already in DC on that side of the country, but just give me a very brief comment on how did you like or dislike New York in comparison to your hometown, to the other side.
There's no comparison. New York is so much better. In this way, I'm a New Yorker. I don't like Los Angeles.
No? Oh, wow.
DC, like, you smell the power. It's a very different dynamic. You know, it's very House of Cards.
I have never been in Los Angeles. No, I have never. I've been to New York.
It's not worth it.
No? Okay.
No.
It was my dream kind of to go visit, feel the city flair, and, you know, just experience and smell the city.
It's as bad as how every New York filmmaker describes it.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
it's really not worth it.
This calms me down a little bit because I've been in New York so many times.
Maybe try the coast of California. It's really one of the most beautiful coasts. If you go to Los Angeles, just to take the car and drive it up to San Francisco. And that's one of the most beautiful coasts. And it's very similar, I find, to France in the way that they have very nice wine and beautiful small towns, and the coast is beautiful. It's not like France where it's not like you can go swimming on the Atlantic. The Pacific is very cold and harsh, but the cliffs are incredible. It really, when I was little, we did one road trip from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It was so beautiful. So that I advise. The California coast is incredible.
So nature-wise there is great. What about dancing-wise? What about companies and schools around there?
Well, a lot of schools in California, a lot of good schools, a lot of private ballet schools from Russian teachers.
Oh, wow.
In Los Angeles, in the Bay Area, the California coast. A lot of high-level schools. Obviously, YGP is a big thing, that competition over there. I don't know San Francisco Ballet very well, and Los Angeles Ballet started when I was 12. They reinstated Los Angeles Ballet. So for me, I don't really know. There's also Sacramento Ballet. That's actually quite a good company. They do very good rep. One of my friends from Gelsey dances there now. But other than that, I don't really, that side of the West Coast, I'm not that familiar with. Yeah.
Okay, because we all know how diverse New York is and how many possibilities there are, or at least I am more informed about this side of the States.
Yeah,
I think it's closer to Europe.
Yeah, I think LA is more for the entertainment industry and for film and television and music. So I think it's more for the pop culture type of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I feel a little bit relieved now that I have not been there and that I have not missed so much.
No, you're really not missing anything. And if you
Um,
want to taste of the California coast, like you can do a road trip on the French coast, and that's fine.
on the
Even
French coast.
easier. Yeah, just do that, and it's like the same difference. They're
I
just
would
as beautiful. There you go. That's it.
I
Done.
would I would definitely, once this whole entire pandemic is out of the way, I would definitely make a trip and call you for recommendations.
Oh
Um,
yes, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I feel that I may like the places you would recommend me because at the moment you're at a place that I really like. So I assume
Yeah.
your choices will be um, a good, guidance, or at least your choices will be something that I would like, because I do like Paris. I had the privilege to go there this year in January for the very first time
Ah,
of my life,
yeah.
and it was just
Hmm.
such a magical city. From touristic point of view, because I only had several days to go around, but
Hmm.
several days, I swear I did not stop walking around. Everything I saw was just so beautiful.
It's
And
very beautiful as a city. That's never gets old.
yes,
Never
and
gets
piece of
old.
me definitely is still right there somewhere on these beautiful streets, on this
Oh.
around these beautiful buildings, breathing the French air and really tasting the cheese and the wine, because I'm such a cheese lover.
Oh yeah, you are. I remember.
I
I
am.
remember.
See, these little things
Still.
from our time
Yeah.
together. So
Yeah, you love
I'm
cheese.
quite I envy you right now in this very moment. But please tell me, in France, what was
Hmm.
how did you come to floor bar? How did you start dancing?
Aha.
What is the story behind the whole floor bar? Because at the moment you are so well known for your floor bar lessons, for the teaching, and you are busy all the time just with floor bar. And
Hmm.
you know
Yeah,
so much
actually.
about it. I want to learn more about floor bar, because the regions of the floor bar for me are something that I actually am not so familiar with. I know different methods of teaching, but I want to know
Yes.
the very original way that you follow and how you
Hmm.
get to actually start with it.
Yes. Well, this is technically the reason why I moved to Paris. Because usually I find that most Americans, if they want to jump ship and move to Europe and work in Europe, they go to Berlin. Because I think there's more English speakers. It's affordable. It's a really cool and diverse city. But I
Yes.
chose Paris because well, it just happened like this. I was walking down the street, lost. I thought I was in a different neighborhood that I was expected to be, and I walked down this very tiny street, very cute, very tiny street. I ended up living near this street about months later, which is funny, but
Oh wow.
it's funny how it all worked out. And I sat down for coffee, and somebody started to talk to me, and it was a dancer from Béjar, incidentally.
Hmm.
And he
Interesting.
asked this person, yeah, he asked me, well, what do you like about Paris? Because I had been here already a couple days. And what I had done the couple days that I had taken class is they would have a floor bar class before the ballet class that you could take. And I took it because at Gelsey's, had a very strict rule that we had to warm up 45 minutes before the class. Very strict. Very, 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 very strict.
This is
And
just to slip in a comment. I'm sorry. This is very
yeah.
rare, and in many places the warm up is neglected to such levels that I just can't believe it. And I'm
Yeah.
very glad to hear that they have a rule. Actually, I said rule like this because from scientific point of view and all of my studies and engagement in dance science, warm up plays such a huge role in the overall performance and health of dancers. So this is just a great thing that I would like to underline. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful you had the chance to benefit from it. It's actually something
Well,
very
Gelsey was really, as the years have gone on, what she created in the time she had her school and when she had her company. Um, I mean, I see the value more and more as the years go on and as I work in different companies. it was really a gem when she had this professional ballet company. But one of the things is we had to do this system that she learned at the Royal Ballet called core dynamics. So you have to do that 45 minutes in the morning. Didn't really speak to me personally. She knows that too if she ever listened to this. It was not my thing. Yes, I was forced to do it. Let's just put it that way. I hope we can laugh about it later. But anyway, so I was in the habit of that anyways, and I was always going to Pilates private lessons, semi-private, another girl who was in ABT. So I was used to this very New York. I had my PT, my Pilates, all that. And so I needed some sort of cross training. And so I decided to try this barre au sol, this floor bar, because we really don't have this culture of floor bar in America at all.
There's more bar, Pilates, yoga.
Yeah, gyrotonic, cross training, fitness. But floor bar, or you call it barre à terre, barre au sol, it's not very commonplace. So I wanted to try it, and I liked it. I really liked it. And so I told this person at the cafe, yeah, I like this floor bar. And this guy said, oh, but you haven't tried the real floor bar yet.
Oh, wow.
I was like, you haven't done it. You have to go to this lady called Jacqueline Finert. This is the real floor bar. And he said, everybody in the opera, like Paris Opera, does it. Dancers coming from maternity leave, injuries, this is the place they go. And she's tough, but she's good. So I got not even the address, I just got a street. It was like a treasure hunt, and I found her. And it was this class that changed the course of my life, obviously.
Wow.
Because obviously as a dancer in New York, I had my frustrations. I had a major, if you can say major, it's pretty good on the scale of what can be major, but I had this stress reaction, so almost like a fracture in my hip in a very weird place, and even my doctor had never seen it before. And by the way, my doctor was the one who did all of Baryshnikov's knee surgeries, Suzanne Farrell's hip replacement, Lopatkina, she came to get her ankles on, so he's seen a few dancers before, yeah. But it's good. That's why it's good to have Gelsey. You get Misha's doctor. And he had never seen this hip injury before. And and he told me, it was quite funny. And anyway, I needed something really to strengthen myself. And I was a little bit wary of, we do our career after a time. And she told me, you have everything for ballet, but you just don't know how to use it. And that was very nice to hear, because in the current trends and aesthetics, I don't really feel like I have everything for ballet. So it was very nice to hear that. And if I don't know how to use it, I'd rather learn. But to know that I have the possibility to be a ballet dancer is nice. To be a ballet dancer in my way and not the way of, let's say, Zafirova. We have different bodies.
Yes, so with the specifics of your body, with the specifics of your body, and the capacity.
How to use my, but with the specifics. Yeah, and she was explaining it this way, and it was a very tough class. She was very tough, and she explained to me her values, her taste, and I had almost never approached ballet from this very sophisticated perspective, I would say. And so I wanted to really work with her, and of course she has quite a resume of people that she's worked with in the opera. So I think she knows what she's doing, but she was really a master teacher, you could tell. And so I wanted to train with her, and obviously she didn't like to speak English, so I had to learn French, and I learned it really in the class, and I wanted to learn from her. And of course I did this I was in Paris for 6 weeks. I from that point on, after that class, the whole point of me being in Paris was, I'd travel a little, went to London, I went to Amsterdam, I took some classes with companies and stuff. But for me, it was, I wanted to learn this, and I wanted to come to Paris to learn this. And then after, do auditions. But I knew that I have to learn this. I have to learn this. I don't know why, but it turned out that it was a really good reason, because, she was at the end. She was going to retire soon. And she taught this method called Boris Kniaseff floor barre. and she was really Bosnia that he gave the classes to her, and she was the authority on floor bar, on
Okay,
this floor bar, his method.
Okay, so she had the lessons. Actually, she had the chance to absorb the actual method from him himself, the creator of this method of floor bar.
Yeah. She was she was like the heir to the floor bar. So I learned from her. So it's like if Joseph Pilot had a favorite student and he gave all his stuff to her, and then you train with them, you're learning from a good source.
And so you started taking classes with her. How often? Per week or per month?
Well, at this point she was only doing classes 2 times a week, but they were about 2 hours, 45 minutes.
Oh wow!
So I would go to all of them. Yeah, it was very comprehensive. So I went to her, and I mean, it was. First off, I trained with her when I came in the summer, and then I came back to America to gather my things. And anyways, it was August, and nobody's teaching in August. And when I came back, also to give my resignation to Gelsey, everybody was shocked because I looked very different.
For such short amount of time.
My body changed, the muscle tone and all the things that was really frustrating about my body or what was not nice about it. Wouldn't say it changed overnight, but my alignment changed. So I looked more like a ballerina than before. Let's put it that way.
This is so impressive.
Everybody, I don't know, but it was doing this floor bar, and that was very encouraging.
Yes, because I have
to go off and to leave, knowing that I have a good teacher.
I have experience with dancers who have been frustrated for the entire career of theirs with their bodies, and they've been always in this fight of, I don't look this way, I don't look that way, I'm too that, I'm too this, they're in this constant loop of self-judgmental, I don't know, call it if you want depression, because they see something that they do not approve in the mirror, although they can do things, they can perform perfectly fine, and I guess it's a lot up to the way they are taught and by their trainers, their teachers, who are sadly very often using the traditional ways only, instead of just seeing or being able to see their the capacities of their body and say, okay, you have everything that you need to dance, you just don't know how to use it, just as your floor bar teacher did. She had this eye, and this is so rare. This is so rare to have the luck to train with somebody who doesn't just want to teach you the traditional methodology of ballet training and to make you adapt to it, but to actually adapt the training to you and to give you the appropriate guidance for you with your body, with your ideal capacities to do what is wanted from you on stage and in the ballet world.
Well, that's what I really liked about her and this method in general, is that it stays very much so classical in terms of what she always said, is that it's about democratizing ballet, but it's also about knowing your body inside out very well, so you know how to make a certain position look good on your body.
Exactly.
To know all the little secrets and things. And so this is why it's very sophisticated. And she had an amazing eye. And she said, I even have it in one recording. She's like, everything is about perspective. Everybody doesn't have the same body. So you have to find the right angle, find the right place. And it's a very satisfying work for a dancer.
And what happened with your injury then? So you were having problems with your hip?
The year before, I had recovered from a hip injury. And I remember this doctor who worked for Baryshnikov and all these stars. He told me, you're going to have to make your hips and the muscles around your hips not just strong, but very strong. So I advise you to go to Pilates.
Oh, wow.
If I had known the exercises I was going to do in
Pilates.
floor bar, but it's just
Yeah.
ironic. I mean, I guess I found, but I never had a problem with my hip again, obviously, even though it seemed like this could potentially be a fragile, ongoing thing.
Yeah, that's why I
But
asked, because
I
I
never
just
had a
wanted to
problem after this floor bar.
directly
No.
directly underline that the floor bar, the method that you were training from Kniaseff, was actually preventing you from further injuries in your already injured area, the hips.
Yeah, I never ever, because as this doctor said, he said, you know, your hips not just to be strong, but super strong. And then if you even will see the first exercise on the stomach, it's on YouTube, and you know there are resources. You will see like it's a whole nother level that to be quite honest, I don't even think reformer bed, what he was giving me, like in terms of Pilates or gyrotonics, it can't even touch. No, I don't know. I don't know other gym trainings, but the stuff with the machine, in terms of Pilates and gyrotonic, can't even put a candle to the things that I learned that I would have to do a year later. And as a result, I never had a problem. This is never a problem again for me, my hips.
Yeah,
So
the hips,
it was
the
so
hips,
intense.
the hips tend to be quite problematic area for dancers.
Hmm.
And throughout the years of training, also the bone density changes, and the body kind of
Oh
tries to
yeah.
compensate and take, um, let's call it in this way, more material from the bones, from places that
Uh,
are not used so much, and place it into those body parts or joints which need more, and
mhm.
especially parts which carry a lot of workloads. And in this
Mhm.
case, the hips are one of these body parts,
Mhm.
and a good training method, supplemental training method, providing injury prevention,
Mhm.
is what most of the dancers need to kind of put the workloads equally well to your all body parts. And if you were
Yeah.
able to strengthen your hip muscles, and in the hip, let me just make a little comment on this. Around the hips, or around the hip joints, there are three main gluteus muscles
Mhm.
and six rotators, which are
60
deeper.
rotators, yes.
Six rotators, which are playing a huge role in the health or the hip health of ballet dancers. And very often,
Mhm.
the maintenance of these muscle groups is just underneath all comment or level of acceptance, because just the methods are not correct. And I'm very curious to learn a little bit more about maybe the history, if you can share with us, of the
Oh
floor bar
yes, yes,
method.
very interesting. Yes. Yes, it's very interesting history. Of course, I learned some of this stuff. Someone sent me from Nikolai Skitskaridze, who's director, you know, of the Vaganova School, and was a premier at the Bolshoi, and is a very well-read person. Very well read. Um, so I trust this anecdote, but from what I had learned originally, Mr. Kniaseff, he enjoyed watching the Martha Graham floor work,
Mhm.
and he thought, well, ballet dancers should have their own version of that. That's a pretty sure effect. And there's another story that he had a dance studio without the bars, so he made the floor bar.
I see.
But the story that Skitskaridze said, which makes sense, and I would say I think is the true story. I like this one. Is during World War II, there was the bombing raids in Paris, and so to have the kids in ballet class, because he had his own school, he put them on the floor and had them do some of the ballet exercises from this floor. And from this, he started his method. And it became wildly popular in the 1940s. It became so popular in the 1950s. Many ballerinas from the opera would come. Even some of his students was Violette Verdi, the prima ballerina legend from New York City Ballet, Brigitte Bardot, who became an actress later. Who else? Leslie Caron from American in Paris, also the movie star. They were all three in the same class with him.
Oh, wow.
And even Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn would come to Paris to take class. Margot Fontaine would come to take class, and just really many others.
Incredible. Wow,
And
I get
just,
goosebumps just by hearing all
it
these
just
names.
took off. It became wildly popular. And so this is how it happened. And then I think he moved to Geneva. He actually even went to Sofia for a bit,
Sofia.
to Bulgaria.
To Bulgaria.
Yeah.
My home country.
Sometime in Greece, and then he came back to Paris. Yeah, and then he came back to Paris. But yeah, so maybe there are some people there. Maybe there is some in Sofia. There are some people who know the floor bar quite well, potentially. I know in Switzerland they have somebody who knows it really well. But other than that, the thing is, and this is funny, bringing something into the modern age world in our kind of epoch, right? With the internet, with anyway, the way we have to do things and market things is he never wrote anything down, incidentally. And in the olden days, that's how he used to pass on things from leg to leg to leg to leg. And so he gave the class to Jacqueline. And there are some people who know it quite well, like I said, in Switzerland and in Germany. Some people who even took his classes. My current teacher knows somebody who took his class.
Uh-huh.
There is no, it's very funny, but much there are. But I guess there were, because I was studying with Jacqueline, and I didn't, there was a language barrier still. I mean, after, first time in Paris, I wrote everything that I learned from her down. I'm not saying I wrote it all my notes on my iPad.
Black and white.
No, who knows? Maybe somebody did. But the irony is that I had to make sure I knew what was going on. So I wrote down all the combinations. I wrote down all the corrections and stuff just so I can understand and remember what was going on because of the language barrier. But I have a teacher who one of my ballet teachers recommended to me, and she's really a theorist of this Kniaseff Barroso. And she's here in Paris. Her name's Yasna. She's amazing. And she found a little old lady who also studied with Kniaseff, and all these people who would know him, they're in their 80s. And we found the right tempos. She uncovered even exercises from the 70s that they stopped doing from 1970. But the thing is, and she keeps saying this, nobody ever wrote it down. So everyone does their sauce. But what she's concerned with is to do it precisely as it's given. And so I'm also concerned to give it precisely as it's given. Because right now, Barroso floor bar, it can have a very loose translation. But my teacher and the way that I teach this Kniaseff method, I want it to be exactly as it was meant to be. Because it really worked.
Yeah, it's a treasure. It's a treasure for the whole ballet society. I must say, it needs to be saved. So if the people,
it's not very widespread in a way. Certainly in America, nobody knows it. In America, that's why my clients and my students are all from America, and it's been working well there because it's a completely new discovery. As you know, like if there was Kniaseff classes, if there was a, let's say, certification, but then I wouldn't have to move to Paris. I'd be like, oh, well, I can stay in New York because I'm going to go to my Kniaseff floor bar class, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't like that. I had to go to Paris. I had to learn French. But now you can do it on Zoom with me.
So technically, the only people left who have had the chance to participate are in these classes live. Back then with Kniaseff are about now around 80 or in their 80s, and then let's say that none or not so many of their students have the chance to teach this method. I'm speaking with you, one of these pioneers and enthusiasts about floor bar and the Kniaseff method, who potentially will have the chance to spread around in much broader horizon and aspect in the dance or in the ballet society. So I
Yeah, so I
guess
better get it
you
right.
have a
I
very,
better get it right.
yes,
It's a
your
job. It's a
responsibility.
responsibility. That's the big word. So for that reason,
It just
I have
grew
to teach it to the.
exponentially.
Yeah, I have to teach it like by the book. Especially,
So
honestly, I'm American. Uh, I don't want to seem like Jane Fonda. I don't want to, for lack of a better term, bastardize it and make it very commercialized. I want to spread the message and spread it to as many people as possible. But right now, it's really on my terms, and it has to be done correctly.
yes,
Yeah.
but how did you start
So
teaching?
it's that balance.
What was the way from taking classes, being a student
Uh huh.
in the floor bar lessons, and then actually starting to teach it? How did you make the
Uh,
transition?
well, it happened. My friend, her mom is an actress and a very well known one in France, very well respected, and she's in her 60s. And we were having lunch, and she told me, you probably heard of this actress, Juliette Binoche. Juliette
Yes,
Binoche. Juliette Binoche. And they come from the same circle, same level, of
I see.
career. And, Juliette, she has this barre au sol floor bar teacher that she takes with her to the movie sets. And I wanted to try this floor bar. I heard it's good. Do you know how to do barre au sol? If not, maybe we can do private lessons. And I said, do I know floor bar? Well, so we began.
Such a
It began like that.
coincidence.
Yeah, it began like that. It was so funny. Just yeah, and it began like that. So she started, and then she invited a neighbor, and then the salon of her apartment started to get really packed.
Oh,
And
wow.
I started very simply like that, and it was just this little simple operation of I had just finished a contract in Swan Lake in Ireland, and literally that weekend after she asked me, and then the COVID hit, and I don't know what happened. I think I did one live stream, and then I had a couple people from LA who messaged me because I think one of my clients now, I met her in New York, and I showed her some of the exercises just to show her in her hotel gym, and she by chance messaged me like a couple of weeks before COVID really hit, wondering, can we do it on video, because I liked it. And then we started on Saturday. Unfortunately, it was at midnight for me because one of our friends was in New Zealand, and was 4 ladies, and we started, and it just got bigger and bigger that way. They started to invite their friends, and I started to post a little more about it on Instagram to be a little bit less shy about it, and then it became a whole thing.
So this is how the pandemic technically turned out for you. Rather successful in a way of developing your teaching skills, your teaching confidence, and gaining more and more followers for your skills in floor bar, and especially in the Kniaseff technique, which is
and it's
rare.
funny because honestly, I have more teaching experience on Zoom than in real life. And I do private lessons. I have clients still in Paris here. And of course, it's much easier to teach in person, much easier. But from my experience, I've also taken floor bar on Zoom during this pandemic with my own teacher, because she's training me up also to be a teacher and stuff. I think the effect is just the same, honestly. Because with Zoom, you have everybody in front of your eyes. So if you keep the class at a good size, I keep the class small to maximum 8 people. I think on Wednesday I have 5 people only for the class. You can survey all of them. And it's incredible because sometimes in a live class, if you have 25 people, you're not going to get to correct everybody. But on Zoom, every square is the same size. It's very, like we said, democratizing ballet. That's very democratic. Every square is the same size. Nobody's in the back of the room. They're all in front of your face.
That's a very
so you get the eagle eye vision
perspective of the online coaching situation. And I must say it takes a little more attention, a little more awareness of the actual coach to be able
Hmm.
to navigate correctly with the online teaching, because it's the exercise, they need to be well explained, well shown in an angle that doesn't disturb the whole performance of the exercises, depending on where the
Hmm.
device is and how
Hmm.
far, how close, also the quality of the connection. But it sounds like
Yeah.
you have figured it out pretty well. And I just love that you said democratizing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct my funny
No,
words.
of
Uh,
course, yeah.
the ballet through these Zoom squares, which are all the same size, and you actually have good eyes enough of fair play for everyone who participates in the
Well,
ballet.
when you have the small class size, it's very obvious if you don't give everybody the same amount of corrections.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, it's very obvious. And I was always such a sensitive kid, so I always noticed if the teacher gave me less corrections than the other girls, and I was always, for whatever reason, paying. Maybe it's stupid, but I was always very sensitive about this. So now me teaching, I want to make sure everybody feels they have
yeah.
attention.
This is a
You
big
know,
thing.
I
Yeah, this is a
want to
big
make sure
thing.
everyone feels they are really part of it. You know.
That's great, and it's giving so much more motivation and self confidence to everyone that is participating. And
Mm-hmm.
in the psychology side of teaching, the methods of
Ah.
teaching, this is very important aspect that teachers often somehow let fly away. And as you said, you had experience with it, or at least you noticed it. And some kids, depending on their sensibility, get really, how to say,
They get
just
very
put
sensitive. I mean, look,
down,
if you have a sibling
depressed.
and the
Yes.
sibling gets like one like fraction of attention more, I freaked out. So can you imagine in a classroom of girls your age, and oh, let's not talk about the slight competition that's going on. Let's say in the professional ballet school, like it just, I mean, so from that experience of always feeling ignored sometimes, and it really would concern me, even though it was really not that important. It would always concern me if I felt like I wasn't paying attention, if I wasn't good enough. That's why the teacher doesn't correct me, because we know in the Russian system of Eastern, system of doing
Yes,
ballet, they
yes,
correct you
yeah.
if they like you. And if they don't like you, they don't bother with you. They will just ignore you. So I always was very scared if I was being ignored. Even to this day, it's always in the back of my head. So I always try to make sure that all of my students feel they are involved. And when you have a small class size, it's easier to concentrate because, well, it's easier for the clients to concentrate because it's small. So they know they're under the microscope.
Yes,
So
I can totally see myself being happy in a class like this.
yeah, yeah,
I
it's
know
more
how
intimate. So
it is intimate, but you get corrections, you get attention, you're being seen. And
hmm
in classes like this, uh, situations where the teacher just ignores you uh, doesn't really
hmm
exist, which is great. But I wanted to ask, how often do you teach per week now, or per day? How many classes?
oh,
What is your schedule like?
I well, I do. Seems like I don't teach on Tuesdays anymore. Today we're Tuesday. That's why we're speaking today. But I teach about 2 or maybe 3 hours a day. I'll have the group class on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. No, Monday, Wednesday, excuse me, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And all of those days, except for Tuesday, I have a couple private sessions, semi-private. I have quite a few girls who they team up together, and they like very week they like to have a private lesson as well. So
So one more
this
time for everyone who wants to join me.
yes,
Give me the
the
days.
yeah, I have the class on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. So not Tuesday and Friday.
Okay, except Tuesday and Friday, you are
Yeah.
accessible or available for classes.
Yeah.
via Zoom. That's great. Just
Yeah.
I have a curious question. Dancers who take classes with you, floor bar classes with you,
Hmm.
I guess they share afterwards how they feel, what they have improved, what has gone in a better way on the technical side of the ballet skills. For example, maybe their, I don't know, extensions or jumps or balance have gone better. Have you somehow monitored what they say? Is there one skill that all of them say, oh, this has gone so much better, or is it more on an individual level?
In general, what I've noticed in terms of injury, that the knee pain disappears. It
Oh
disappears.
wow.
I don't know. Disappears. I don't know. I've been very lucky. I don't know if it's the timing of when I discovered the floor bar, but I never, knock on wood, touch black, but I never felt a pain in my knee in my life, thank God. And I don't know if it's because of the floor bar, but they stopped feeling it too. And I have people who have all ages. So I have every replacement you can get on your leg, your hip, your knee, your ankle. They all have, a lot of people have replacements, and the pain goes away, and the back surgery and the back pain goes away. So the stuff, it disappears, as their word. It goes away. They don't know where it went. The chronic injuries and pain. Of course, what they all say is they feel much stronger. It really builds strength for something that is non-impact. You just lie on the floor with your pair of socks. That's why it's very practical for Zoom. They get so strong. They feel, obviously, coordination is better. Turnout, obviously, the hips, opening the hips and strengthening the hips. Very flexibility, but we don't do crazy stretch class. This is not rhythmic gymnastics stretching class. I teach a very specific method, so there's no time to with someone to be doing splits, and maybe we'll do it at the end of class or something. But I don't teach stretch class, but yet that people's flexibility really improves. And I like to think it's because they're harmonizing their body and their joints, and things naturally loosen up and open up without having to force things to do that. Of course, their back gets more flexible. Turns are better because the hips are more even. What things anything that has to do with the strength and stamina and coordination.
Yeah, I guess the knee problems disappear or seem to disappear because of the improvement of the range of motion of the hip joints themselves, and the
Yeah.
strength of the muscles of the hip joints, which are the responsible muscles for keeping the underoar on the correct place. And of
Yes.
course, the underoar should match to the range of motion that the person has. But the more
Yeah.
it improves, and the more the strength of the hip muscles improve, the less tension there is on the knee joints, which
Yeah.
tend to be the middle point of the lower limbs or the legs.
Yeah.
And often they suffer a lot. And I actually want to note for myself, because at the moment I'm writing my master thesis on knee alignment
Oh.
in the take-off phase of jumps, and how the poor knee alignment affects the jump height. So technically, if you have a poor knee alignment and kind of wobbly, wiggly, and not stable knees, this detriments, or in my theory is that this would detriment the take-off phase in Allegro, so any jump that you do, and this will then, of course, detriment the jump height. Another crucial point is also for on the side of injuries, injury prevention and injury reasoning is also in stable knees, because by landing or in the landing phase, the gravity plays huge role. I mean, we all know that our weight increases when we land from certain height. And let's say we're up in a grand jeté and we're landing down. It's about, I'm not gonna lie, 3,000-4,000 newtons that are placed down onto the foot, but they all
Oh my
go
gosh.
through the knee. And when the knee is not
Oh my gosh.
aligned, you can imagine
I'm never gonna jump again.
how much tension there is. So
Oh my gosh.
actually, Actually, this is a great side note for myself that I can even slip somewhere in my future studies because I want to write an article on this knee alignment thing.
Hmm.
That a potential or potential method for injury prevention, knee injury prevention can be the floor method by Kniaseff because it will
Hmm.
improve the hip joint stability, which will then secure the stability of the knees more or less. I mean, we're not talking too much about biomechanics because the quadriceps and the calves and all muscle
Hmm.
groups down there play a role, but it is
Hmm.
a great note that um, deserves attention for future dance science articles. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good thing. So there are lots of benefits from floor bar for the dancers. What about the people who are not actively dancing or performing? As you said, your first client was around
An
60,
actress, yes, yes, 60. I have
and
quite a few clients in this age range, 60s to 70s. Very popular with them.
so they
Um,
all benefit. So the training is actually adjustable for people who are not experienced in.
well, yeah, and I don't adjust it that much. I really don't. They do the same thing as the young dancers, and their hips open up a lot. Their feet, and the same thing, especially if they have injuries, it goes away. They feel so much stronger, more stable. Because some of them they still do ballet class, but those who don't, they love how their body feels, how their joints feel, how their injuries seem to chronic injuries just from life if they're not a dancer go away for whatever reason. That's one of my clients. She had a chronic knee injury from, I think, playing tennis or something,
Oh
and
wow.
dis- disappeared somehow. So from
So
the
it
floor
seems to be
bar. So
seems to be very good method of training for dancers and for non-professionals as
yes,
well.
and the non-professionals, they like knowing that they're doing the hardcore ballet training. You know,
And I
like a,
and I want to ask then, you yourself as experienced professional dancer and um, active mover and body awareness master, because
mhm.
as a ballet dancer you cannot not be body awareness master. What has improved the most for you? You said already that you looked different and had kind of different, I don't know, exposure altogether of your body, of your lines. What was the thing that improved the most for you?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, I wish I could ask somebody. Else. I mean, for me, it was also the strength. It was also knowing how to work because unlike, let's say, you and your education, which you were lucky to have in America, it's the Wild West. As you know, I started the ballet training not in a conservatory, but in a private ballet school with a teacher who didn't speak English. And so you just, Americans, unfortunately, it's just you start in this breeding ground for bad habits and pushing things too soon. After 3 months on point, I think I did a variation from Paquita with a 4 or 8, something like 8 pirouettes from fifth at the end,
Wow.
yeah. But at 3 months, do you really need to do that in state ballet school? You're still doing some maybe releves at the bar, but in America, we push it fast, and you collect injuries or bad habits like a moth to the light, so like a magnet. And so for me, it's been really helpful cleaning up my technique, gaining the control, and really actually knowing how to use, as my first teacher told me, how to use my body for ballet. And as a result, it's so much more interesting to work in class, to keep improving. There's always more and more things. I'm working more and more, especially with my teacher, what more things are improving. Really helped me for my pirouettes because I'm very scared of turning because I'm a lefty. uh, so it really helped me break down and understand ballet for myself and my body, and to continue on this track. And I think if I didn't discover floor bar, I for sure would have quit ballet. But the floor bar,
Wow.
because I'm doing it, it opens new possibilities, and you get curious, and then you go to the class, you go to the rehearsal, and you want to try this feeling and incorporate it, and it's very symbiotic. my floor bar work is what fuels me and motivates me to stay in this profession, which we know is very difficult for everybody.
I just got
So
goosebumps. Second time today.
So for me, it's my base, it's my foundation, especially as someone who did not have the privilege to have the real proper foundation for ballet, which, as we know in the state ballet schools, even you guys, you do some sort of floor bar, some sort of training, preparatory gymnastic training on the floor for a little bit before you start standing up. And we never have that. It was Paquita, 8 pirouettes. Even I think we did Serenade or something. I did some balancing. It's the American way, and of course you don't have then you're not afraid to do stuff. But I mean, if you're in a country like in France, they care that it's extremely clean. So it's for me to go back and clean and create the foundation that I never had properly.
Yeah, very, very important
reprogram
topic.
Myself.
Yeah, very important topic that you just touch upon, having any kind of supplemental training at the vocational schools or professional schools for dance. I, in my experience, have not had any. I had my education always, or at least a special education in dance in the vocational school in Sofia and then this in Kirov, mostly concentrated on the ballet technique itself.
Yeah.
And as you remember in Kirov, we had very, very long days.
Long days,
and very long classes. I remember starting from 2:30 p.m. and finishing at 7 some days.
You had the 4 hours and a half class or something.
It was very long. I
had the technique class.
I remember the first months for me were just so hard. I could not keep up. Then of course I got used to. I mean, the body adapts in one way or another. Of course, I also had injury that I had to deal with.
You had the quad injury from the heat, from the air conditioning. Yeah.
The air conditioning. Yes.
Didn't we had character class at 7:20 in the morning? Remember that on Wednesdays?
Maybe
that was fun.
I guess I erased
on Wednesdays. We had character class at 7:20. Then we have ballet class for us, the young girls, and then we had ballet history. That was fun.
Yeah, this is something which is so. I am sure I'm gonna say, but it's wrong. First of all, the body needs some time. I'm not gonna say 2 hours, but I'm saying 2 hours to wake up.
Yeah, so the body needs time to wake up.
The systems need to start running. Then the body needs a proper warm up, and then the body can start working. The thing is, these schedules in the vocational schools are so crazy. So less of them, I would say 90%, are based on the old traditional way of teaching dance and dance technique. That is just sad. So many people get injured, and I must tell you, it's not only in the States. I know what you meant about kind of slowly climbing up the stairs for securing your point technique and point strength and so on. But leave this aside. The whole structure is just very poor. I must say, it's not well thought. And in my experience, I never had these extra supplementary classes where I could work on specific skills, on developing specific components in the technique. Not even speaking about cardio and knowing my capacity of the respiratory system. Like as a dancer, I hated cardio. I could not run. And then when I was on stage and I had to face a choreography which was going on for, 20 minutes nonstop.
Oh, yeah.
I could not breathe. I could not survive. I remember crying backstage just because I had no power to move. And
the floor bar is very good for the endurance, actually.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but it is. I know why, but it because we work on breathing. I remember Jacqueline, she was very specific about how we breathe from the side of the lungs.
Another very important topic.
No, it's the very old ballerina technique. They don't teach it anymore. Maybe they will now, but it's also yoga breathing. You breathe from the side. It's different from singers. They breathe and they inflate and deflate the stomach, but we breathe from the side of the ribs.
Yeah.
And something about she taught us how to pace ourselves. Because I remember after we learned one hard variation, the cigarette. Maybe you heard about it. It's a
Yeah.
cigarette variation of 3.5 minutes long. And I remember I told my teacher, yeah, I learned it, but I didn't get tired, or I don't know. And it's because you learn how to pace yourself, because it's not cardio, but the exercises can go on for a long time, and you just have to like a swimmer, continue and continue and continue and continue. And something about it helps you with the breathing and just the mentality and the way you are using the muscles in the context of dance. You, for whatever reason, it trains you mentally that when you go for a variation, for example, you stay in the mindset to continue and breathe and just keep going and keep using the muscles, and just, so I found it very helpful for the endurance, for whatever.
It creates
something
adaptation.
In the sauce.
It creates
something
adaptation.
In the sauce. Yeah.
And it would be so great if more schools have supplemental classes, at least floor bar. It is so sad that
I know in Germany they have it. I've heard, because Stefan Dahl, one expert, was teaching in Hamburg. Now he's in Toulouse.
I said, some schools have it, but the majority are really.
And also the floor bar, sometimes it's a little bit vague, the term, but Kniaseff, I think they do it. I heard they do it in. My teacher told me that they do a little bit of it. They do their version. It's very not precise. They do some inspired version of this floor bar in, I think, Bolshoi and Vaganova and other conservatories in Russia. But what I saw of it, it's very inspired. It's not precise at all of the method, and it's a pity. It's very bootleg. It's like a fake Chanel purse that you can buy on Canal Street in New York. It's not the real. A lot of key, I know, like, just not to say, but there's one prima ballerina, Russian prima ballerina, and she loves the Kniaseff floor bar, and she's very, she really loves it and fantastic, and talks about it a lot. And in her master classes, she even has the girls do it before they go to the bar, and she makes some very critical mistakes in the placement, like red light, critical, because she didn't learn it from one of a source. Very critical, very spine alignment. I mean, red flag from the beginning, but she likes it. And obviously, she gets some benefit of it, but she didn't learn it properly. But how can you know how to learn it properly for the moment? It really only remains to be, you have to go to Paris, or maybe there is one or two people there, ballet masters in ballet companies, but they don't teach it on a regular basis.
So that's why you have the responsibility now to put everything black on white.
I'm doing my visa now, so we are doing some things black and white, because I have to prove. I'm doing a new visa. I made a joke. This is the first time we're putting Boris Kniaseff technique on black and white, because to get my French visa.
Well, it needs to start somewhere. This is the first step. The last step will be having.
I make the certification and I give the diploma to Sylvie Guillaume, because she was a big fan of this method. She did it a lot. Yeah, she studied a lot with my teacher.
Wow.
So that's the funny thing. I said, okay, then I will give retroactively diplomas to some really big legends. Okay, Margot Fontaine, you have the diploma. Like, okay, Brigitte Bardot, you have a diploma.
Well, I'm sure.
But Sylvie Guillaume, you have the diploma.
A lot of ballet dancers who are willing to be teachers, or planning to be teachers, or doing their degree in teaching, would love to have this certification and implement this method in their teaching. Yes. Because I believe the dance world now realizes the high impact of the technique and the high impact of the dancing hours and rehearsals and performance that the body has to carry. And sometimes the body needs more maintenance than work.
Yeah.
And everything needs to be planned out well and needs to be placed in the correct time, in the correct moment, and needs to be somehow foreseen. And of course, everything takes planning, and planning your training routine, implementing different methods is a great to diversify the training, to enlighten the body, to allow it to be somehow more taken care of. Let's just say it this way. Health and well-being are very important. I must
Yeah.
say, because the demands of the dance world, they increase. There will be choreographers coming with the craziest movements possible, and they want you to
Yeah.
perform these movements in a week. They come, they teach you, and
Oh, yeah.
you are just left there with the choreography. But how to perform it, how to improve it, how to actually cope with the new movement, if you do not know your body that well and you're not trained in different methods,
Yeah.
then it's really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
And besides the floor bar that you're so busy with right now, and thank you so much for the time that you spared today in your
Yeah.
day off to have this super interesting talk with me on floor bar, know the benefits and the history and so on. What is coming for you next? What is your I mean, of course, it's quite hard to plan anything on stage
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
restrictions, but
Mhm.
give me a brief idea what's coming next for you, and then also lead me a little bit in retrospective back to your career experiences and companies and stages and whatever comes as an interesting highlight of your career that you would like to share with us.
Yes, well, moving forward, I can't say anything yet for certain, of course, but should be doing more projects in starting from autumn in the fall. But for now, what I see from this summer period, I'm still gonna do lots of teaching, getting the visa, fingers crossed,
Good luck.
and actually checking out a location to start planning some retreats, some floor bar retreats in
Wow,
France
this
and
is
Italy. So
something
a little bit
new.
of business, little business behind the scenes for that.
This is
So really,
interesting. This is
yeah,
innovation. I like it.
yeah,
Floor bar
yeah.
retreats.
Yeah. It will be really awesome. So I'm
Keep
working
me
on that.
updated. Keep me updated on that. I
Yeah,
want to know more.
yeah.
When
I
the
will
time
let you know.
comes.
Yeah, I already have. Yeah, people there. I wouldn't say they're banging down my door, but they're really banging on my DMs, Instagram DMs, and email me, and they're saying the moment I can fly, I will come for a retreat in Paris or in some chateau in France or
Oh
like some
wow.
villa in Tuscany. So
Nice.
I'm gonna actually have plans to travel and check these things out to offer. So that would be really exciting. And then hopefully it's just quite a busy period for me. So I'm sorting all my affairs so that I can start in September, kind of back to my not normal life, but doing the teaching and dancing. I was lucky because recently I was able to perform a little bit with the ballet in Metz, Opera Metz, and we did Romeo and Juliet. So I was happy that I kind of in the recent future was able to do a series of performances.
Yes,
Um,
very, very nice.
yeah,
Especially with the
yeah,
current situation.
yeah. It was really nice. So we'll be continuing to work with them. And I was doing the teaching at the same time. It was crazy, but it really worked because it kept my legs fresh. It was good to have the cross training. I don't think I would be able to do. I don't think I'll be able to do to be dancing and not doing the floor bar at the same time, which I had done in certain periods because I wasn't in Paris. But with the Zoom, it was really nice to be able to take class, to also teach class and do the exercises with my clients and students. And it kept me in shape, I needed that extra aspect. But previously, I've been dancing in Ballet de l'Opéra de Metz, and then in Bordeaux, the ballet company there, in Toulouse. I did. We're going back. My resume was touring with French ballet company and all through France and Spain, and that's what I was busy up to, and also dancing in Ireland. Most recently was in Swan Lake. That was really fun, and yeah, and here we are. That was what I was up to in France.
Very, very rich experience around Europe.
Yeah.
Sounds very
Yeah, I would
exciting. I
love to
mean,
do more like in Germany maybe, or in Spain. I almost had an option there.
you should come
But with
visit
this
me in
visa,
Berlin.
this would be more easier. Yeah, I need to visit it. But I think with this visa, I've been here 6 years. This really opens up my possibilities, because I'm sure you understand sometimes the visa is a little chink in the chain, and we are cleaning all that out. And so
Yeah,
the doors will be open.
Yeah, all dancers across the ocean, I guess, at some point have to deal with it if they want to
With the
stay
visa.
for the long term.
If they want to stay for the long term and just have the freedom to be a
Move
candidate
around.
wherever they go, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see when I get let's see what will happen if I have the visa, and obviously I will have this business with the floor bar that I can just take my computer. This is the beauty of it. I can be location independent. If I don't miss Paris too much and I have an opportunity in a different country, I can just take my computer and go.
It's
and if I don't like it,
yeah,
I can take my computer and go back to Paris or wherever I want. So yeah.
And so talking about taking your computer and being place or location independent, wherever you are going to be on the 6th of June.
Yeah, I'm going to be in Paris.
You will be in Paris. And as we are planning to have this workshop happening, would you like to share a little bit about the structure of the class? Maybe a couple of sentences. What you plan for this workshop?
I plan to do the foundational exercises of the floor bar and explain them properly. So there is the first 4 foundational exercises, and this can take some time to explain and do. And I would love if we have the time to we will do some. I'm not sure about stretching, because it depends on the format. We'll see, but we will try to do a full class the way it was written by the book. Let's just put it that way. A really traditional class. What I love about it is that when you learn certain parts of the system, anybody can learn it. It's just I have to explain it the right way. So I give workshops, and what I enjoy, I have a workshop this weekend that I'm teaching to a different ballet school. What I love about doing the workshop is we can get people together who it might be their first time, but they're a little bit maybe they're familiar, maybe they're not, but I get them, and I like to teach it really thoroughly and properly. And that way they can have at least the foundational exercises, which I think is a perfect warm up or cool down before ballet class. I love doing, for example, floor bar in the evenings. Puts my body in a great place. Just amazing for the next day of work. Amazing. Yeah. So it required discipline when I was rehearsing after, from 10 to 5, and then go home and work until 9, exercise. But It was always worth it, because on my Tuesday, when I didn't do it on Tuesday, I did not feel so good Wednesday. So it also helps with the blood flow and stuff. If the legs get heavy, definitely. A little tired, to get the blood circulation going in a non-impactful way. So I'm looking forward to taking people through it thoroughly, because as I mentioned before, sometimes people, they look at the exercises and they think they know it, because sometimes they seem simple, but if you don't understand the placement, you can be an amazing famous ballerina but have it all wrong. Not all wrong, but
yes, I'm very much looking forward to experience, to also have the chance to experience this way of teaching, of explaining the placement, the exercises, where the focus should be, how the breathing should be done, because breathing is a topic that many teachers just let out of the room and never speak about it, which I just cannot handle. Yeah. And I'm so thankful that you actually mentioned it a little bit earlier in your talk about like the floor bar and the details and how it's taught and how it should be and why and what. And it's a topic that is actually just a little insider planning to do another study on, but let's save this little sentence aside and not open up a whole new conversation, because breathing is the key, or at least from my point of view, is the key to everything.
Well, if you study the martial arts, it's incredible. My mom, I studied a little bit in New York, and my mom, she's like a martial artist, actually. What happens when you're 148 centimeters?
Said anything about this.
Well, when you're 148 centimeters, you've got something to prove. So, yeah, Aries. So, when they come short, they're quite fiery.
Yes.
But I had the pleasure to study some martial arts. And, Tai Chi, it's like from the martial arts. They're interconnected. And it has a lot to do, there's different ways to breathe. I mean, this is for martial arts, but it really affects, you can do the same movement. It can be Tai Chi, you can do the same thing, and you can knock someone over with just the way you use your wrist. It's incredible. This not lack of effort, but it's all related with the breathing and things like that. I wish I could brush up on my knowledge, but it's very important from what I have even witnessed from one martial artist doing some Tai Chi movement, and then he asked someone and he just kind of flicked his wrist, and this girl was like, oh, like on the floor, just with his finger,
impressive.
But it looked like nothing, but it's the really high level mastery of this type of
So you kind of had already a little insight about the importance of breathing because of your mom. But you're the only dancer in your family. There's nobody else.
My aunt was a dancer. Yeah, my aunt was a dancer in the Texas Ballet Theater. I don't know the guy, the Mao's Last Dancer. She was in the company at the same time that he was in like Texas Ballet, and then he went to Houston. So yeah, she was a professional dancer. Yeah.
Okay, so 2 dancers in the family tree.
Yeah.
That's nice, because I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows, if you come from a background with lots of dancers in the family and you're somehow influenced because you are such a professional and you speak with so much fire about dancing, about floor bar and training and performing, but one more dancer in the family makes it 1 + 1 makes it 2. And now for all of the rest of the dancers who are listening, who will be listening to us, just give me a couple of sentences with your advice, or what would you like to share with them that you think is important, that maybe you want to encourage them, maybe you want to give some kind of example, something maybe that has inspired you and you think will be inspiring to others or motivating for others, anything that you think would be a goodwill finish for today's talk.
Well, I think I always think of my teacher, Jacqueline, who really re-encouraged me to dance or to keep dancing and stuff. And I would say, your body's your instrument. So you need to know how to put yourself into the ballet. Yeah. And as I think it was Dostoevsky who said that you have to love the art in you and not yourself in the art. So I would say work on your craft, find a way to work on your craft, be passionate about it. If you have patience and diligence, you can move mountains, as my teacher said, and not to be too discouraged or to get too caught up in, the trends and TikTok and whatever somebody's doing in Instagram. If you really study the ballet history, then you'll really see some of the most incredible examples of things, and you will develop your taste and understand the context of what we're doing and why we're doing it. You'll be able to have more reference points to create yourself as the dancer that you would like to be, to have your vision, and not to just follow some trend, and not to go from the superficial outside in way, but to develop yourself from the inside out. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Very very nicely said. Very inspiring. I got goosebumps for third time today. and talking of vision, how do you envision yourself in the future? What would you like to give for the dance society, for the ballet society? Do you plan to continue with the floor bar teaching? You said you shared briefly about some future plans, but how do you see yourself for the long term?
I would like to really become completely an expert in this system. Also, as a dancer, I would like to really, and keep on working more, but really be an example of how this method works and how it can encourage people. I wouldn't want to say it's no secret, but I always felt like I didn't have the ideal physique for ballet. But if you're a real craftsman and a real artist, I've seen so many times with the floor bar, you can make, and what Jacqueline told me, you can really make yourself into a fantastic ballet dancer. So I want to show that as an encouragement and to continue dancing, of course. And in floor bar, I would like to make it I plan to teach this until I croak. So I want to be really the best that I can be, and complete expert. Maybe we'll put something in black and white, but I do hope that maybe in America this will become something more common, but not in a bootleg way. I don't want to see people going off and teaching and doing it all wrong. So, but I really hope that because I think that when people study the Kniaseff method, they also, ballet kind of goes back, not back, but it kind of recenters it on its proper values as an art form, and it becomes less about this superficial crazy gymnastics that you see in TikTok and Instagram. And I think we can put the focus more on the art. I feel like it's quite good because it encourages the right people to keep going, and it helps people understand a little bit more about what classical work is about, which is something that I learned from Kelsey, this regard for classical work, deeper idea about this art form and, things like that.
Yes.
It's gonna sound good.
Yes. Lately it's about the tricks and not so much about the dancing, unfortunately.
If you study the Kniaseff method, you develop a more sophisticated eye for the dance. And I appreciate ballet so much more at different people than I would expect. And as a result, you approach, that's why, the French dancers, they are very classy and elegant in the way they dance. This is one thing. They've never really followed trends. No matter what's happened, they even produced Sylvie Guillaume. They still didn't force the kids to lift their legs up like her. But there was always a really artistic stress on the work with Jacqueline, with my teacher now, which was always amazing, which is always so inspiring to do the class. So I feel like this strong influence, because it does give you the tools to dance. So you're not like, okay, I have to be super artistic, but I don't know how, I can't even do this double pirouette, So I hope that this influence and the idea of what the floor bar is about, I hope it will spread and kind of keep the ballet values shining, and kind of rectify some things that have gone awry. Of course, there is the strong, it's like how you've been studying with the sports science and the mental health. A lot of this is organically as well included in the Kniaseff method. So I hope with the right people who will be able to teach this and imbue the right values, that a lot of the ugly side of the ballet world that we see will, I wouldn't say go away, but I think we'll have more dancers with a stronger, more foundation mentally and physically. And yeah, I hope it goes in, I hope it can have an influence in this way. Yeah.
I am very sure that you will come up to peaks of spreading this method and actually validating it in more broad perspective, so that is not so famous just in France but also overseas, because you have a lot of passion, a lot of fire about it, and you're very precise obviously about the way it's taught, the way it's performed and trained. And this is the most important thing, because this will actually diminish the trends or the influence of the trends, the fancy trends which arise with the social media and all the platforms, of course. And the tricks will, or they hopefully they will be not as important, or
they'll be put in their proper place.
People will understand that the importance in dance is back to the basics of actually dancing, expressing, telling a story, reaching people emotionally. And for this, you need to have a perfect articulation of your body and not actually being trickster on stage, jumping and turning around with all of these crazy social media things going on and really changing the minds of the young population, the young generations of dancers. So I really wish you, and cross my fingers for a very smooth and very concentrated way up and forward only with all of your goals connected to the floor bar technique of Kniaseff. And I would like you to share with us where we can find you. What are your social media channels, platforms? Talking about social media and the influence, but here is one good influence on social media, everyone. Let us hear where we can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. That's where everything is. It's at India, like the country, M like Maria, Rose like the flower. So at India M Rose on Instagram, and there I have all my resources, how you can book online my classes and private lessons, and any upcoming workshops, any news, any Instagram live stream, or free materials like that. So all there,
everyone,
one place.
Run and find India and Rose on Instagram.
Yeah.
And bombard her with DMs.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, India, for your time, for sharing all of your experiences with floor bar, telling us a little bit about the story, about all the benefits that we dancers can have from adopting floor bar into our routines. And hopefully we talk again soon when you have your goals already on the way, happening, accomplished.
My visa.
And your visa too, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you so much.